tender tiger. Was that because he gonna win the lottery? Was his last chance at a big win? And you can confirm that this is the ticket in question? Millionaire Radio Show starts at 1:30 p.m. and runs for 10 minutes. That fixes the time you two met with some accuracy. And the whole scene was acted out 30 minutes later. Again. Also that Mr. Kudo would see it. Was there anyone else in the restaurant at the time? If there was no one there, I'll wear that ridiculous tiger shirt for a month. Mr. Armstrong, Maggie, and if I'm right, Viola Cadaverini were all there at the time. So the victim had intended to repay you from his lottery winnings from the beginning? True. Mix. No. Sometimes luck is on their side. Even the most unlucky people have to get lucky sometimes. The waitress, you mean? Girl with the glasses and defendant's chair. What do you mean things would have been over and done with? I don't buy it. Witness, you will amend your testimony to reflect what you just said. The tiger's motive, huh? I don't buy it. I don't buy it. Especially after finding out what the victim actually did for a living. Are you saying you had no other motives that day? Then why didn't you take the lottery ticket when you left? Because of Maggie? Objection, Your Honor! A likely theory. Your word hasn't held water lately, Mr. Tigre. I know that, Godot. Leave it alone. Better leave it at that and try to figure something out. Thank you, Your Honor, but there's no need to amend the testimony. So the Tiger was meeting Glenn Elk to get his money back. If Mr. Elk had just given him the lottery ticket, that would have been the end of it. And so what's the Tiger's motive? This is the big one. If Al managed to undermine this testimony, it's all over for us. Why would he have to poison Mr. Elk? And why did he loan him the money in the first place, when he knew he couldn't repay him? Wait a minute. I know exactly what his motive was. It wasn't because of the money either. I know what his real motive is. Right here! Objection, Your Honor! He just intended to get back the $100,000 Mr. Elk owed you, correct? I don't think so. Unfortunately for Mr. Elk, I don't believe the $100,000 is what you're really after.
Objection!
Oh, the moneylender was after money, but money in a totally different league. The kind of money that a single disc like this would fetch. A computer virus, Your Honor. A virus called MC Bomber. A computer virus is a program that wreaks havoc on the insides of a computer. I'll explain it to you later, Your Honor. Right now, this is the important point. A virus like MC Bomber would be worth several $1 million on the black market. Lending money with no hope of ever seeing repayment would normally be bad for business. But in this case, The very fact that Glenn Elk had no way to repay the money is crucial. Glenn Elk was a programmer, a highly skilled programmer. That skill was the collateral Mr. Elk put up in order to borrow the money.
Objection!
Exactly. I know that, Godot. Of course he could, provided that he had time. What if he needed the money right then? When the pressure's on, the luxury of choice tends to disappear. Gladly, Your Honor. Bam! In December of last year, you found yourself in need of a huge amount of money, Mr. Tigre. About 6 months ago, you were involved in a traffic accident, weren't you? An accident involving a car and a scooter in which a young woman was injured. She was taken to the hospital where she underwent surgery. These medical papers document the treatment of the young woman in question. According to these, her operation cost $1 million. And yet, when the payment was due last month, you somehow managed to pay it in full. Mr. Tigre had no choice but to pay, because his very life depended on it! Indeed it did, simply because the injured woman was none other than Viola Cadaverini! Bruno Cadaverini, mob boss in charge of all underworld activities in the city, and doting grandfather to his precious Violetta, also known as Viola Cadaverini. Your life was in danger unless you paid compensation to the boss, correct? It makes sense. You were desperate to acquire the $1 million Bruno Cadaverini demanded of you. So desperate, in fact, you decided to sacrifice Glenn Elk's life to pay your debt. On the day of the murder, Mr. Tigre's sole intention was to get his hands on this disc. Glenn Elk had no way of paying back the $100,000, and Mr. Tigre knew it. But then a miracle happened. The kind that Mr. Tigre would prefer to say never happened. But he can't, and neither can I. Exactly. At the 11th hour, Mr. Elk won $500,000 on the lottery, which left Mr. Tigre with no way of getting his hands on an all-important disc. At least no legitimate way. So he resorted to illegitimate means. He murdered Glenn Elk and then made his next move. Some free Maggie Bird for the crime. Mr. Tigre posed as Glenn Elg, while Viola Cadavarini played the role of Miss Bird. And then they reenacted the whole thing in order to establish a witness. The witness being the one we all heard testify yesterday, Mr. Victor Kudo. Objection, Your Honor. Mr. Armstrong was in on it from the very beginning. Have you forgotten already, Mr. Godot? Mr. Armstrong owed the witness money too. $500,000, in fact. He had no choice but to go along with Mr. Tigre's plan. I agree. Despite your appearance, you are very careful. That's why you took one more precaution. One more trick to make sure Miss Bird had no way out. Gotcha!
Take that!
Consider yourself insulted, Your Honor. Mr. Tigre, you didn't just pose as a victim on the day in question. A month ago, in this very court, you posed as me! That's the truth. Gotcha! I don't think so. You're not getting away with this one, Tigre. Objection, Your Honor. Have you no pride? Oh, I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. Sure about that, Godot? Oh, you're not getting the best of me this time. I don't think so. Oh. I don't think so. We're not done yet, Your Honor. Hold it. Yes! Final decisive piece of evidence. You're going down, Tigray! The results? Yes! Come, she worked so hard to get that evidence. If only there was some way that I could use it. You are mine, Tigray! I know I can't prove anything new with this evidence. Really backed into a corner here, but maybe if he thinks he's got me beat, he'll let his guard down a bit.
Take that!
This is the defense's final piece of evidence. Your Honor, naturally, the court is already aware of the contents of this bottle. However, interesting new information has come to light. We have clearly identified some fingerprints on it. Fingerprints belong to you, Mr. Tigre! Except for one man. One person in this courtroom should theoretically be in the dark. A phony trial, a phony lawyer, and phony clues. Everything about this case has been phony. Seems like the perfect excuse for some phony evidence! Mr. Tigre, this will be the decisive evidence that will prove your guilt. Why? Gotcha! This bottle contains potassium cyanide. The poison used to murder Mr. Elk, Your Honor. The victim's killer used this very bottle. And on this bottle, Mr. Tigre, we found your fingerprints. Well, how do you explain that? What? This is the bottle we found traces of the poison in. Got him! At last! Is this the bottle you're referring to, Mr. Tigre? Gotcha! Yes! You still haven't figured it out, have you? Don't you realize what you just said? You were summoned to this court for the first time earlier today, Mr. Tigre. If you really had nothing to do with the murder, you shouldn't have known all the little details. For instance, you shouldn't have known what kind of bottle the potassium cyanide was in. But just now, you slipped up in front of every single person in this courtroom. You described the exact bottle used by the killer to hold the poison. Sure. The last piece of evidence was phony. But that's just what you deserve. The phony trial with a phony lawyer. It was all played out by you, the biggest phony of all. Gotcha! Oh, that was beautiful. Heh. That felt great. Miss Bird was found guilty in the absence of a genuine defense attorney. Yes, she was. In the absence of genuine evidence. The tiger made one mistake. Very nearly got away with everything if it wasn't for that one slip of the tongue. Furio Tigre is a truly frightening criminal. This court finds the defendant, Miss Maggie Bird, not guilty! That is all. Court is adjourned. Detective. Maya's right. I should help him out. It's clear he needs it. Detective Gumshoe's really been worried about you through all of this. He didn't have any choice, Maggie. He's a detective. He has to report the facts. Gotta prove to her that Gumshoe really cares about her. Of course. So the case of phony versus genuine comes to an end. The false allegations surrounding Maggie have all been cleared up. And who knows? Maybe a whole new chapter of her life is about to start. Everyone, I'll be right back. Now, I'm not going to be able to finish this next trial tonight, but we are going to get started on it, because this is one of the most important trials of the entire franchise. Give me a couple minutes, and I'll be back. And when I come back, I want to show you why this case is so important. Alright, everyone. I am back. Now, as I mentioned before, this is one of the most important cases of the entire franchise. Turnabout Beginnings. You're gonna find out why it's so important. Let's begin. First, the prologue. This is the first case of my longtime mentor, Mia Fey. Into an old court case. Terry Falls. Charge, kidnapping and murder. Sentence, death penalty. Fugitive movements. After escaping, Falls met with and then murdered Sergeant Valerie Hawthorne. Recaptured on Eagle Mountain. Her very first client was a death row inmate who had recently broken out of prison. There was a whole year before me and I ever met. Six years earlier, Mia Fey, first trial. That's only one of the reasons why this is so important. The other reason, well, actually there's a couple of reasons. One of them, you're actually going to see very shortly. One of them is Mia's partner. A guy who may look familiar to you. Terry Falls, my first client. Sentenced to death 5 years ago, now a prison escapee. Why did you escape, anyway? Mr. Falls, the police just recaptured you 2 days ago. You're on death row, right? That woman, she lied in her testimony. Now, I apologize for that, everyone. Now, what's going to be important is just who that mysterious woman actually is. One thing I will say It's someone we've seen before. I'm not gonna say who. 2 days ago, he escaped from the police wagon when it crashed. Then about 8 hours later, a policewoman was murdered before the police could recapture him. The police believe that Terry Falls did it. After you escaped, did you meet a policewoman? So that much is true. He did meet with the victim. Take a look at this guy. Does he look familiar to you, everyone? He looks very familiar, doesn't he? Look at the hair and the goatee. Everyone, this is Diego Armando, former law partner of Mia Fey. He also worked for Mia's former boss, Marvin Grossberg. Indeed. So, Diego Armando, the finest lawyer at Grossberg Law Offices, is here for me. Indeed. Now take a look at that last name, everyone. That is why this case is going to be so important. Well, one of the reasons. And the other another reason is this guy. Why is he going to be so important? Well, that I'm not going to reveal until the final case. You'll find out who he is. I guarantee you, it's going to be someone you've seen before. Prosecutor for today is fresh out of his diapers as well. Now, this is also going to be important because you're going to find out who that prosecutor actually is. A solitary confinement cell for the condemned must be the world's loneliest place. That is what my client ran away from. Every other lawyer gave up on him, but not me. When I saw those overflowing eyes and heard that simple childlike voice, I just had the feeling that he was telling the truth. Now, let's begin. I think you'll recognize that red suit. Court is now in session with the trial of Mr. Terry Falls. Defense is ready, Your Honor. Yup! It's him! It's Miles Edgeworth! This is actually Mia Fey and Miles Edgeworth's first case. Indeed. Mia actually became a lawyer quite at a young age as well. At the young age of... Should I say it? Wouldn't hurt. 23. If they're skilled, then I don't see anything wrong with young people running a trial. Anyway, now then, the defendant in this case is currently a felon on death row. 2 days ago, he escaped from a police wagon. Is that correct? The defendant is not on trial for escaping prison. On the day that the defendant escaped, a policewoman was murdered. So we're here to determine if Mr. Falls was responsible for her death. Now then, Mr. Edgeworth, let's hear your opening statement. It was 5 years ago. The defendant, Terry Falls, was sentenced to death in this very court. His crimes were kidnapping, extortion, and murder. The girl he threw off the bridge was only 14 years old. Supposedly threw off. There was no decisive evidence, and so the trial was long and protracted. In the end, what finally decided the case was a certain witness's testimony. Now, before I continue, there's one thing I should mention. There is one important character who is going to appear in both this case and the following case, which is the last one. Now, I'm not going to say who it is, but I will say this character is one of the most evil characters in the history of gaming. I might have said this person's name before, but, well, you'll find out. Witness's testimony. The testimony of Detective Valia Hawthorne, the person who confronted this criminal. She arrested Mr. Falls at the scene and later testified against him. She said she witnessed Mr. Falls throw his young victim into the river. For those who are not aware, Eagle River is known for its powerful current. Most bodies that fall in are never recovered. So Miss Hawthorne's testimony was the one that put him away. Exactly. The victim. Same woman that was killed 2 days ago. Police Sergeant Valia Hawthorne. The man who was sentenced to death based on her testimony escaped 2 days ago. With only one thing on his mind, to take revenge against the woman who convicted him. Wait a minute. That's not right. At least hear the case before you decide on the outcome, Your Honor. Another thing I should mention, if I haven't done so already. This judge is actually the younger brother of the other judge in most of the Phoenix Wright cases. Mr. Edgeworth, please call your first witness. Very well. Witness, state your name and occupation. Very well. Detective, pull yourself together and try to be professional. Otherwise, I'll write you up on contempt so quick, something other than your heart will ache. Now, Detective, tell us about the incident. The victim was Sergeant Valerie Hawthorne, a veteran on the police force. She was stabbed in the back with a knife and died from excessive blood loss. That much is already stated in the autopsy report. Veteran? She was only 23. I would say she was more of a rookie. If she had been on the force for a while, though, then maybe. The court would like to hear more details about the incident itself. Let's see what we have here. Now, I will say this. This case is not very long. I'm still not going to be able to finish it tonight, but I'll probably be able to get through most of it.